Theater of the Oppressed was first introduced by Brazilian Nobel Prize nominee Augusto Boal. Theater of the Oppressed is designed to provoke social and political change through the art form of theater. According to Boal's biography on Theology and theateroftheoppressed.org, Boal was born and raised in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Boal studied chemical engineering at Columbia University, and after he graduated, he returned home with a job offer from Arena Theater in Sao Paulo, where he was able to pursue his passion in theater. Uniquely, after a Boal play, audiences were invited to stay afterwards and engage in conversations that had to do with the topic that was presented. So several political topics, political things that were up for debate were presented on stage through the art form of theater, and afterwards he gave the audience opportunities to be not mere spectators, but to actually engage in part of the play and actually become members of the play and not just spectators. This, through these subtle conversations, promoted political change in his society. And as any political activist of his time, he was demonized by several people who disagreed with what he was trying to do. And he was kidnapped, tortured, and even exiled for his work. After a governmental change in Brazil, he eventually returned to Rio de Janeiro and formed several companies to inspire more Theater of the Oppressed productions. So Boal was a man who himself found in areas of oppression in his life, and he really used his platform to, after he was kidnapped and tortured and exiled, that really inspired him to just completely move forward with his idea of giving the people a voice to promote change. In the 90s, Boal wrote several books that eventually took off, and he actually put his money where his mouth was and became a politician. Boal ran for a position that in the States is what we would call a city councilman, and he won. And he actually used several of his techniques, his Theater of the Oppressed techniques, to gain information and collect information about what the people wanted to actually implement them in forms of legislation. And it's kind of a term that's been coined as legislative theater. Probably my favorite tool that he uses in his Boal plays is called invisible theater. And this is where they would set people up in a public place, like maybe like a city hall or at a bus stop or somewhere a lot of people would be. And people around didn't know that they were actors, but they would engage in conversations and political debates, and people would stop and listen. And this is how he gained information to promote legislation and actual political change. So he used his platform for something more, and he used his platform to promote the embetterment of the society around him. And this is why Augusto Boal and Theater of the Oppressed should be celebrated forever.